Friends, welcome to the session 17 of second BA Optional English, semester 3 of Mangalore University. I am Sumana Rajendra, Associate Professor of English, Purna Prashna College, Udupi. In today's session, I will be dealing with the topic Dickens and the Victorian Age. Before that, let's have a recap of the previous session. First of all, we learned that novel has a structure, it entertains and tells a story, it traces its origin to the Elizabethan period. Novelists such as Richardson, Henry Fielding, and Lawrence Sterne developed the genre in the 18th century. Novelists like Jane Austen, Charlotte Bronte projected this genre in various dimensions, especially realism in the 19th century. Charles Dickens is considered as the pioneer of realism. Dickens and the Victorian Age. The Victorian age, that is the age of Dickens, was an age of great political, social, religious, economic, intellectual, and literary activities. It was an age of radical changes in every field. It was an age of suppressed social interest in the hearts of people. It was an age of compromise and balance. Outstanding literary features. This age had the dominance of a moral or utilitarian outlook with the fusion of romanticism, idealism, and rationalism. Now let us look at the early life of Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens was a victim of poverty. His father was arrested for not paying off the debts which he had in a bakery. Dickens dropped out of school at the age of 11 to shoulder family responsibilities. He earned for his living by labeling and blackening pots in a warehouse. Dickens entered into authorship in 1833. Let us look at Dickens' contribution to the English novel. Dickens awakened the consciousness of the Victorian age. It can be said that he was the first novelist to protest openly against the corruption and social maladjustments of the age. Dickens admitted the common people of London to the arena of the English novel. He appeals to his readers by the quality of sincerity. Almost every novel of Dickens has a moral purpose. Now let us have a look at Dickens' art of plot construction. Dickens is the most typical of all Victorian novelists. He offers us a very good kind of entertainment. The gaps are filled by good scenery. All his characters are immortal. The characters that appeared in his novels are more important than their manners or situations. The stories that he had to tell us are gripping in their interest. Now let us look at Dickens's art of characterization. Dickens's novels have a large variety of characters. He divided his characters into 3 or 4 main categories. All his characters give us a precise picture of the external, that is, the faces, the gestures, and the dress they wore. But his characterization has some flaws, that is, All his characters are flat characters. They fail to develop even at the end of the novel. But all his characters are real persons of flesh and blood. He is more successful with the abnormal characters than with the normal characters. Dickens's humor. Dickens can be considered a super humorist. Humor is the soul of Dickens's works. He portrays humor of character. He also creates humor of themes and situations. Satire was used as a source of humor often in his novels. Humor was projected through virtuous and vicious characters. His novels are known for humor. Now, Dickens is pathos. There is a fusion of humor and pathos very creatively put in by Dickens. Pathos moves the hearts of his readers. Pathos has been both admired and criticized. The pathetic scenes have been highly admired by critics. Dickens's satire. Satire arose out of a serious purpose of reform and revolution. The basic intention of satire being morality. Satire was aimed at defective laws, system, and institutions of his time. Satire targeted capitalism, ill education, corruption in legal and political institutions, and bad consequences of industrialization. Now, just let us have a look at Dickens's realism. Dickens was a realist in the sense that even imagined things looked real. He was a realist in the sense that his work is the romance of the streets of London. Realistic treatment of characters, of child life, realistic feelings, and reflections of the conditions of his age. Realism is of low life, that is, domestic life. All his characters are almost realistic characters. Dickens's imagination. Dickens had a prolific sense of imagination. It was a rich imagination that found an expression in his comic figure, in his love for exaggeration and the fairy tale atmosphere. His sympathetic imagination made it possible for him to identify himself with his characters. His imagination gave rise to a perfect blend of humor and pathos. Dickens's language and style. Dickens had a remarkable power of description. He was a master of prose. He made unique use of the English language. His style had a universal appeal. He had a dramatic element in his style. Dickens can boast of a rich vocabulary. He had a racy narrative style. Dickens was a minute observer. Dickens's morality and social reform. There is a deep, serious purpose in all his novels. Dickens was a blend of a prophet and an artist. All of Dickens' novels are based on experience and a deep concern for social reform. He attacked injustice in all areas. Dickens as a typical Victorian writer. Almost all his novels represent the Victorian age. Dickens's novels reflect the transformation of society due to industrialization. Filth and materialism of the Victorian era is depicted in his novels. He wrote about the people and for his people. Let us now talk about the limitations of Dickens as a novelist. It is said that his plots were loose. that are incoherent and improbable. He put in exaggerated characters. He had a limited range, lacking insight. Characters don't grow. He had a great deal of fantasy, a fairy tale atmosphere. There was an excess of pathos. His novels lack artistic conclusions. The style that he depicted is that of a working journalist. His novels are accused of having an excess of melodrama. There is an indifference to the themes of human imagination. Here, I come to an end with this session 17. Thank you very much.